Good evening. Good evening. My name is Kenneth Powell, and in this video, I'm demonstrating the testing implementation for my behavioral health compliance checker. During this milestone, I developed a total of 10 new tests. There were two original tests added in the previous milestone. These two appear where it tests a compliant record and it tests a late record. But there are 10 newly added tests that I'm going to go over today. And these tests include both unit tests and integration tests. So unit tests validate individual functions in isolation, while integration tests verify how different parts of the system work together. And the test is designed to check whether a system behaves as expected under specific conditions. And we'll get into further, we'll get into more detail about what those specific conditions are in the upcoming demonstration. So I'll organize my test inside of a test folder at the root of the project. As we can see here, the test folder is under the cloned repository folder. Um, And inside that folder is a file named test_compliance.py. So Pytest automatically discovers and run test files that allow the name con that allow that follow the naming convention starting with test, which simplifies test execution. All right. So as previously mentioned, so this was one of the original tests, the test compliant record, and this test verifies whether a record completed within the allowed time frame is marked as complete. So the time frame for the diagnostic assessment, the due date is 2 days after the emission date. Um, so as long as the completion date falls within that 2 day time period, this record should return as compliant, as demonstrated here. And then a late test record would be any date, any completion date that is greater than 2 days from the emission date, and that should return a value of late. So then I expanded the test suite by adding 10 new tests, right? And these tests cover edge cases, invalid inputs, boundary conditions, database integration, and system behavior. So this will improve reliability by validating both normal and abnormal scenarios. So this test, the missing completion date, I wanted to test the scenario if a user was entering a record without a completion date present, and it should return missing. Test four, test a boundary due date. All right, so this tests this scenario in which a completion date is on the is on the 2 day deadline, which still should be marked as compliant. This next test test the database insert and retrieve functionality. So I insert a full record, you know, uh, and I should, on the first line should be client ID. All right, next test, the due date calculation. So this is just a simple test to ensure that the due date is being calculated appropriately. It's the due date based on an emission date of April 6th. The due date should be April 8th. Next, I'm testing the explanation text. So here we see a completion date that is extremely after the anticipated due date. And so after the compliance engine evaluates the record, I should receive a message that has this text after the due date. The next test whether or not an emission date is missing. So if a user attempts to add a record with a missing emission date, I should, we should receive this status of missing. This test what happens if a user enters a completion date that occurs before the emission date. And with that, after that record is evaluated, we should get a status of invalid. Next will be testing for an unknown assessment type. Excuse me. And here, I put unknown type in the assessment type box. And in the previous milestone, we know I implemented a drop down functionality, but in the future, this will the potential for this case, um, the potential of this case occurring is highly plausible based on the fact that CSV uploads. Well, I anticipate adding the functionality of allowing CSV file uploads to fill the database record, which could result in an unknown assessment type being incorporated into the record. Nevertheless, after the record is evaluated, the anticipated status is unclassified. The next testing an empty database result. So here, records, get all records, insert record list. Just testing the functionality. What will happen if the database is empty? Um, this one. Test record order preserved. So this is just to ensure that the records are occurring in the order in which they were entered. All right. So as you see here, the client ID is 6001 and 6002, um, and they should be entered accordingly. All right. So those are the test files. I mean, those are the tests incorporated into the test suite. So now I'm going to go down to the terminal. As you can see, I did a preliminary test here, but I'm going to go down to the terminal for the purpose of the demonstration and run the test. All right, as we can see, there were four failed tests. The first failure occurring with the test database entered in a retrieve. And it appears that it's returning a result from a previously entered record. When I first tested out in one of my previous demonstrations, I would type in a type of a record just to show the flash functionality. And I'm going to do a quick fix for that one right here. I'm just going to delete that file, and then let's try to run that one more time. Okay. All right. All right. So based on these errors, it appears I've made a rookie mistake. Because once I deleted the records file. Now in my test they aren't there isn't a table for them to reference to run the test. Rookie mistake. So what I have to do, I have to make a few updates, which I want to make right here live on the screencast. So the first update here from the database, I want to import create table. Um, as we see here, like I have that function defined, creates a table if no table exists in the records. Forgot to import that into my testing suite. Um, Next. In the specific excuse me, tests that uh that reference the database, I want to insert the create table function. All right. That way it knows to create the table if no table exists. And I'm going to do that for every test that references the records file, that references the database specifically. So excuse me. Let's see. Here we are. Boom. Right. And here. Okay. All right. Two. Save the file. And I'm going to, oops, didn't mean to do that. Okay. And I'm going to run it again. Let's see. All right. Boom. There we are. Okay. So instead of the initial six failures, I scrolled up quite a bit, 1 second. So instead of the initial six failures listed here, we are now down to three failed tests. Okay, so this first test, missing admission date. Okay, right. Okay. So I just get it back to my point in the script. So missing admission date does not match format. So it appears it attempted to parse the date before checking to see if the record had to ensure that the record wasn't empty. And so, oh, Lord have mercy. Oops. Okay. Now to fix that, I'm gonna go here. Excuse me. Add it here, actually. Okay. Okay. Yep. So here we are, right? But if there's no admission date, return status missing. Simple. Return can be used. Okay. Okay. Ah, I see what's going on. I actually made a mistake here. Well, I actually want this to be here. Oh, there we go. Sitting there like, what's going on? Okay. Well, all right. Now, the second error. completion before mission. Sir, compliant, um, invalid. So what ended up happening, it decided to say that the file was compliant when it should have returned invalid. So, okay. So I'm going to add that fix here. All right. And then all right, so now to fix the unknown assessment type error, um, boom, I'm going to insert this fix here because I've anticipated a status of invalid. However, I didn't define what valid types were, right? So for that fix, I'm going to create a space here. I'm going to put valid types equals. I want to list the valid assessments and then I'm going to put assessment type and valid types return status unclassified explanation simple unknown. Oops. Um, That's got a comma here. There we go. All right. So that should fix everything. So now I'm going to save the file and let's run it again. Let's see what happens. Let Let's go. So I'm, extremely excited. So we have 12 passed files, 12 passed tests, excuse me. So all of the tests, all of the errors that we received in the previous test that failed, we're able to implement fixes and they are now correct. Right. So these tests they follow a simple arrange, act, assert pattern. So arrange creates the test data, act runs the function, and assert verifies the result. Go back to the file so you can see that in real time, right? So arrange, boom. This is the record. Boom. This is the act. So arrange, record, right? Act, result, and then assert, assert. Here we are. So why it was important to do the fail first? Why does that matter? So I intentionally allow tests to fail before fixing the code because this approach ensures that tests are validating real behavior. Defects are discovered early, and fixes are applied to the code, not hidden by modifying tests. This aligns with test-driven development principles. In this milestone, so just to recap, in this milestone, I implemented 10 new meaningful tests covering business logic, edge cases, invalid inputs, and integration with the database. Each failure revealed a real issue, and I corrected the implementation rather than changing the test. This ensured that the system is reliable, maintainable, and behaves correctly under real-world conditions. Thank you for your time. Until we meet again.